welcome to my studio. Today we're working on this beautiful Christmas lace vase, and this is real easy to do. We're going to show you how to prepare and make your own lace. You're going to love this technique and use it for lots of other things. Let's get started. For this project, we're going to be using caulk silicone, and this is Alex Fast Dry. You can paint it in 20 minutes, but that does not mean it is ready in 20 minutes. We'll talk about dry time a little bit later, but it is important to get this brand. I've been using this brand for several years. You do want the white. You don't want it clear. I do not have a problem with this turning yellow on me. It really holds its color and it is nice and stable. I don't have any problems with it falling apart as well. I do purchase mine at Walmart. I can find it for about under $3, so check there. And if not, you could probably find it at any of your hardware stores or things like that. You can cut it off with your scissors depending on how fast you want it to come out. You may want it smaller, you may want it bigger. On mine, it also has a tip cutter that you can cut the tip off as well. This is just a caulking gun. You can find it in the section with the caulking as well, and we're just going to dispense it that way as we go. When I'm done with it, I just use a little plastic bag and a rubber band around it. You can just use saran wrap or something like that as well. And I have stored this for months at a time and have never had a problem with it drying out. So that is what we're going to be using. So let's get started on our project. To load our caulking gun, we're going to trim off the edge, and you can use kitchen scissors. And I don't make the hole too big because I don't want it to dry out. But you can, if you're doing a whole bunch, you're not worried about that, you can make it bigger. That's totally up to you. I've never had a problem with it drying out as long as I seal it correctly. So now we're just going to load that in. You can push the little trigger till you get that nice and tight in there. And you also can turn it manually if you're having problems with that, and we're ready to go. So to fill our mat, we're going to use our caulking. And one of the first things I do is I go get a wet rag, just damp, but something I can wipe the caulk onto and not worry about the paper falling apart or anything, and I can throw it away when I'm done. So I've used this several times. Yours can be brand new. That's okay. And we're just going to apply it directly onto the mat. And I'm going to do a section at a time. So this mat has 3 different pieces, and you can work a section at a time, I think, is the easiest. We also have a 3-inch and a 4-inch spreader to help you. We are providing those at miriamjoy.com just so you can make that convenient. And what you're going to do is you're going to work this back and forth in these until we fill up all of these holes. And you don't want to see any open areas in the holes. And if it is, I do all 3 sections at a time. If that is easier for you to do, then do that. So we're going to continue applying this and working this until we get all of our cracks and everything filled in. Now this line can easily be taken smaller if you're not careful where the tip of your spreader fills. So we want that not to be caved in. We want to keep that nice and straight. So when I'm doing this, I just go ahead and do the whole mat because I can use them for other things as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get the mat done, fill it up the whole way, and then we'll talk about just cleaning it off some more. So I've got this pretty well covered, but I want you to see these little tiny holes that I've got right here. We want to make sure that those are all filled in so our design turns out really nice. And we can use some of this extra frosting and scrape it as we go and fill those in. Make sure that all your edges are really covered in good, and when you're scraping that you're not making any of those come back, and that's why having the bigger scraper really helps. And again, we talked about not scraping like right down the middle of those with the ends so that those don't sink in. So I'm just going to come back now and we're going to remove as a lot of this extra on top. And this really goes a long ways. You'll be surprised how many of these you can make with our special frosting, just one tube. So it's going to go a long ways. And we're just going to try and get this as clean as we can without creating any holes. And it's okay to leave some of that. I'm going to show you how we're going to clean it off. But the less we have, the easier it is going to be. So think about that as well. I do have a little area right there that I kind of got too thin. So I want to pick up some more frosting and just lay it back in that area as well. And we're going to let this dry. Now, dry time is going to kind of depend on the project you're working on, how thick it is, if you used a different type of frosting, which I don't recommend, or caulking as we call it, and the weather, the humidity, how dry it is, and things like that. So those are all things that we want to take into consideration. I like to let mine dry at least 12 hours. I prefer to let it dry a day so that it is nice and dry. But make sure that all those little holes are showing, that they're pretty well clear. And we're going to dry that and then come back and show you how to clean it up after it's dry. We're going to let this dry at least 12 hours, and it's going to depend on your humidity, how warm it is. I actually personally like to let mine dry for at least 24 hours, but you're going to know it's done because it's going to pop out easily. If it sticks at all, it is not done, but we don't want to take it out yet because all of these little guys are going to show in the window. If you can kind of see right there, those are still attached, so we have to clean this all up. And now this is a bigger one. Like on this little guy, I just rub it with my fingers and he's done. And this is our Christmas bell one. This is a really cute one that I'm going to do a lot with doing the holiday. It's just beautiful, and all the snowflakes are so delicate. So anyway, getting back to this guy, we've got to clean all of this stuff off, especially in all these little tiny lace places. It's really important to clean it off. Now I just wet my fingers with some water and I just start rubbing. And you're going to rub until you get every single one of those nice and clean. I have tried to come in with a kitchen sponge. It's a little bit more aggressive, and maybe kind of just doing the bigger areas is helpful. And so I'm just going to stick with just this area right here for now. But once you start to get that kind of done, then still come in and complete it with your fingers. Now, because we're doing such a bigger one, it's going to actually wet it again. And I would honestly like to leave that in until it's completely dry again. It's not going to take that long. It's just going to kind of, you'll notice it's going to be dry to the touch and probably be done within an hour or less. But that way we're not re-wetting anything and kind of we don't have to worry about it changing shape or falling apart or anything like that. So you can see this takes a little bit of work. It's so worth it though. So, but you can see how I've got every single one of these completely cleaned off. And once that is dry, then just gently, because you don't want to break them, especially on the ends, start to pull that off. And then you get this wonderful, wonderful lace. Once you've done your frosting mat, I'm going to use the middle piece only on this vase, and we'll talk about it. And I want to start with the outside edges, and we're going to put them on the corner, and we're going to work our way up to the top. So this is perfect for dividing this right in half. So I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to cut this right in half. Now, the one thing that happens here is this top part comes over these little edges more than halfway. So we're going to trim those down just a little bit. And so what I've done, and we'll zoom in here, is I have taken this scallop out on both sides. Now make sure you don't get rid of your fat part down at the bottom. You only want to do this up at the top. So I'm just going to take my real small scissors, and I'm going to trim these right there on that little part. And you can come in, I kind of get them off first, and then I come in and kind of even trim them just a little bit nicer so that you don't see that that was another part there, just on that very top part, on removing that little scallop. So I'm going to go ahead and clean those up and do this second piece again, making sure the fattest part is down at the bottom. So my bottle I picked up at Dollar Tree. You could pick up any square bottle. You could do it round if you wanted to, and just do it on both sides. If it was round or the same width, you wouldn't have to trim it up at the top. So that's totally up to you and how you want to do that. And if you think that this top part up here, if you're worried about trimming that, you can trim that down a little bit further as well. So whatever frosting piece you want to use, or we're using in a project, we're going to put it on with our E6000 spray adhesive. And this is an alternate to our sticky E6000. This is something we don't have to touch. And we simply shake it, and then we're going to spray it right on. And I have a spray tray that I just do my E6000 on. But when we're working with a frosting item, we want to make sure that you have the rough side and the smooth side. So we're going to spray it on our rough side. And once we've shaked this, we're just going to make sure that we've got it coated really well on the top and the bottom. And give that just a minute or two, and then you can go ahead and apply it directly to your project. And then I just take a paper towel and wipe my tray off so I don't have all that sticky on it, and use it for the next time. The E6000 spray adhesive can be found at your craft stores, kind of in the glue, kind of spray section, kind of look there. I've also seen it at Walmart, so different areas like that. If you do get it at your craft store, I always tell you to use your coupon to buy it, and it'll make it that much more reasonable. But this is going to last a long time. So once I have this guy with the glue on, again, our big part goes at the bottom, and that centerpiece is going to go right down the middle of the edge of that bottle, and we're just going to start to apply and push that on and work our way up. And I'm only going to do a section at a time here until I'm comfortable with it. And I don't think it'll be a problem going on to the next section, but if you're having a problem with it and you're worried about getting into it, then don't do the next section and let this guy dry a little bit. But you can see how we just barely, those guys will back up next to each other. Now if you have any areas that are kind of lifting, take some E6000 and put it on a toothpick and put it underneath those guys, and then lay them down, and they should lay down really well. I think I have a section right there that's going to pop up a little bit, and maybe I didn't get enough on my bottom edge. But I'm going to go ahead, I think, and go ahead and put this guy on. I think he's okay. We've got this all glued down, and like I said, if there's any areas that you need to glue back on, then go ahead and do that. But I wanted to show you a couple of other things. This is our butterfly frosting mat, and wouldn't that be really pretty to put a butterfly on there for a different season? That would be really cute. And the snowflakes come out of our Christmas bell frosting mat, and I am going to do one big in that little area and one little one in that little area, just like we did the other ones, and that will complete the gluing part of it. And I would probably give this a while to go ahead and finish setting up, even though I know you're just putting a ribbon around it. So I don't like this area right here, and if you were really brave and you wanted to glue rhinestones up on the side, you could. But instead I'm going to just use some border trim. On the last one I did red. On this one I'm going to do silver. And I just take my scissors and I cut this in half. And the last time I put E6000 onto it, but I'm going to use the hot glue now on this one because we do have an absorbent area underneath it. So I'm just going to do it the length of my bottle on the lace and just put hot glue, and you may want to do it in sections if you're nervous about doing it all in one shot. If you're doing the low temp, you're even going to do less at a time because that dries so fast. And I'm just going to glue that on both sides. And then it gives it that wonderful little sparkle. So the next thing we're going to do is just take any type of ribbon that you have or may want to use on this project. I chose red on this, and I'm going to, because this is wider up at the top, I'm going to kind of bunch it together and just tie my ribbon around it and cut that off the length I want it. I'm probably going to leave this one a little bit longer than I did my other one. We'll talk about my other one in just a minute here. Okay, on this one I just used a little bit of greenery. You can even snitch a little bit off a wreath or a garland, and a little holly. And this is one of our recycled ornaments, Christmas ornaments. Those are new this year at miriamjoy.com. We got those special just for this holiday season. On this one I thought I would just put some greenery and some berries. I kind of like that. So I'm going to glue that on, and then I'm going to glue a pine cone over the top of that. I'm going to squish this die down just a tad. It's just a little bit big for me there. And depending on what you decorate with, you might want your bow smaller or bigger, but there is no right or wrong. Decorate it the way you think that it should be and the way you like it. And there is my pine cone, and we are all done. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that project. For your own frosting lace mat, come on over to miriamjoy.com, as well as the snowflakes, which are the Christmas bell mat, and I love that one. I've been using that for a lot of things, even just a little snowflakes. So there's a bunch you can do with that. Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.